we as Americans should all want, needy families who receive these SNAP benefits to receive them.
Yeah. The time to care about the 42 million people who are on SNAP and the wisdom of that program is not in the middle of a government shutdown.
Republicans argue the merits of what I would call using hunger as a political weapon in the ongoing shutdown fight with Democrats. Let's take a look.
There is a crisis brewing in America, and for some reason, not many people are talking about it. It has been a hell of a week for families across the nation, as many Americans got told that they no longer have a job. Just look at this list. It's astonishing. UPS, Amazon, Intel, Nestle, Accenture, Ford, Novo Nordisk, Microsoft, PwC, Salesforce, Paramount, Target, Kroger, Applied Materials, General Motors, and Meta. They all told account for 175,000 jobs. Now, keep in mind, the government right now is still shut down. It's been more than 30 days. And a lot of uncertainty is still there around food stamps and food assistance. And speaking of, despite what the president claims, the cost of living in this country is not going down. Inflation is up, grocery prices are up, electricity prices are up too, healthcare costs are going to be going up, and apparently so is the likelihood that you or your neighbor's job is at risk. This shutdown could not come at a more perilous time for a lot of Americans. And I don't know, I mean, it's been the weirdest shutdown in history because everybody seems to be cool with the fact that it's been a month, nobody's getting paid, people are getting laid off, and it's not just to be clear, it's not just emanating out of Washington why these layoffs are happening. Some of this is technology. Some of this is just the economy churning, but it's hurting regular Americans, and nobody in Washington is doing anything.
It's interesting because when you all broke down our topics and what we were going to talk about today, I think this is one of these examples that all of us can relate to. And if you don't mind, I think that it's more about an issue of stability. I don't know what sector you work in, if you're watching this program and if you're paying attention closely. I think all sectors feel instability. I don't feel like this is about an issue of whether or not we all will be saying the shutdown is affecting us. All of us feel this. A good friend of mine, her mother works at UPS. She just lost her job on Monday. She found out. I look across the world in which we work in. I see that our colleagues, our peers are losing their jobs at, Paramount, CBS. I see if you look at Intel, you're losing your jobs. Pharmaceuticals companies are firing people. And they're saying that it's restructuring. They're saying it's about the economy. They're saying it's about AI. And I feel that this instability is really starting to take place. And it's affecting everyone. This isn't what side are you on. It is truly an issue that is affecting every single person that I know. This reaches us across all boards, and it's unfortunate because we find ourselves having these conversations right now. Everything in this country right now feels very unstable.
And in the middle of all of that, I mean, the food stamp issue is within the control of people in Washington. And it's 40 million Americans who could lose access to food. They're already sort of on that line, right between being able to make it and not. Why not just take that off the table in this other fight over the government shutdown?
Well, a judge yesterday took it off the table, at least for the time being, and so we're not going to see it. I think the Trump administration was trying to make this we've never suspended SNAP benefits during a government shutdown of all the shutdowns that we've had over the last 30 years. So I don't think it was going to happen here. The Trump administration wanted to do that to put pressure on Democrats to go back in and try to settle this because Democrats would be very responsive to that moment. But I think what you were talking about speaks specifically to an underrated part of the instability that we're facing right now, which is that Donald Trump raised the average tariff in this country by 500% this year. We've never seen anything like this in the history of America. That's going to, of course, when you're putting import taxes like that, it's going to affect the prices of goods, and it's also going to affect investment by companies and whether they're going to make long-term plans or not, and that breeds a lot of the instability.
The belt tightening is happening for sure.
Well, I gotta say, on the point of the federal judge, I mean, if the federal judge can rule that the Trump administration reinstates food stamps, why can't she also rule that the Democrats need to reopen the government? Because I'm not just concerned about the 40+ million Americans who are not going to have food stamps. I am also concerned about the 12,000 FAA employees who are not getting paid, about the 2.2 million military members not getting paid, about the 2.5 billion in SBA loans that are not getting distributed. And the bottom line is the Republicans have voted 13 times to pass a clean CR, and the Democrats will not do it, and it's because Chuck Schumer thinks
but that's a
every
disingenuous
day
argument. That's
is
a
getting better
it's not
for him.
It's not just solely just the Democrats. In fact, there is reserve. You know that there's reserve that can be used to make sure that these SNAP
great.
benefits
There's reserve for every single
and they
thing that we
remove it,
need to do.
But the reality
Democrats
is
just want
that
it
this is an issue. So you're saying, do I have to make a choice between SNAP benefits or health care? Like, why do we have to make that choice in this big, beautiful America that we live in? It's not fair just to say it's a Democratic issue.
So
It's
let's have that
everyone's
debate
issue.
after we
But it's
open
not
up the government.
But it's not just a Democratic issue. That's a disingenuous argument. We should not be on any side in this issue. This is about people who won't be able to eat. 42 million Americans that can't eat.
So
Children
let's
who will not be able to.
reopen
But it's not about
the
the
government.
Democrats. That's not a fair choice.
It is a fair choice. We would have that funding and funding for everything else if the Democrats were willing to vote. As Fetterman has even said, he's called out his own party.
I'll
Democrats
disagree.
are losing the biggest union who are tired of their dynamic.
So let me play what Glenn Beck said about this SNAP issue, and this was kind of echoed by President Trump as well. Listen.
Wait a minute. How much are we paying in SNAP? How many people? 40 million people on SNAP? When did that happen? To now people going, I don't know if 40 million people should be on SNAP in the first place. We're finally having a real positive, constructive conversation. 40 million people? Guys, we haven't even hit a depression. I mean, this is not like the Dust Bowl. It's not the 1930s. Why do you have 40 million people?
Shut the fuck up, Glenn Beck. Wealth inequality is as bad as it's been in over 100 years. It's not why are 40 million people on food stamps. It's why do 40 million people have to be on food stamps. Until we figure out how to compress the distance between the very rich and the very poor, it'll only get worse. So you think 40 million is a lot now. Wait until you see what happens if we don't do anything, Glenn Beck. All right, let's get back to it.
You know, this kind of reminds me of when they were debating about whether they should lay people off. Actually, I shouldn't say debating. They were planning to lay people off, and Trump was talking about it as if this was like an extra perk of the government shutdown. There's a messaging disconnect between saying the shutdown is hurting people while also saying this is our opportunity to cut people off of government assistance. This is our opportunity to fire federal workers. And that's been happening throughout this government shutdown, which is difficult, it seems, for Republicans.
Yeah, as we get closer and closer towards 2026, it is very clear that this is more and more Donald Trump shutdown. And the reason why is because November 1st is a critical date. SNAP benefits 40 million Americans. Many of them are in red states. Many of them are in swing states that voted for Donald Trump in 2024 and multiple times. And with many of them working class, rural Americans. And so, look, the reality here is that it has created a situation where all of us as Americans want to make sure that working class Americans who need these SNAP benefits, they receive them. It's also created, quite frankly, not that this is a political issue, because I agree with my colleague over here, this should be a bipartisan issue to see Americans get SNAP benefits. But if you talk about a political moment, there have been many governors who actually have their states stepped up. Right here in Governor Kathy Hochul, right here in New York, has already pledged over $100 million in New York State government to feed families, for example. But we as Americans should all want needy families who receive these SNAP benefits to receive them.
Yeah.
The time to care about the 42 million people who are on SNAP and the wisdom of that program is not in the middle of the government shutdown, contra Glenn Beck. And we see this every time the governments get shut down, regardless of which party is the initiative mover here. And the Democrats are the initiative mover of this shutdown. They are simultaneously owning it and sort of deflecting the blame. And at some point, those of us who are neither Democrat or Republican kind of don't care, because this is like the 35th time we've done this in the last 30 years. And none of those shutdowns, including this one when it ends, sooner rather than later probably, has affected the trajectory of the underlying political debates at issue. None of them.
Yeah, totally. I mean, a shutdown is at best a short-term strategy, and everybody loses in a shutdown. But I think this idea that shutdowns don't end with some form of negotiation is also not accurate. That typically, actually, they do talk about something, and the lack of talking is part of what makes this shutdown so remarkable. Why don't they just, they don't have to actually resolve the healthcare issue, but they could come up with an agreement to resolve it at a future date in good faith. That seems like a reasonable thing that they could do.
They could. I mean, it's interesting, actually. Hakeem Jeffries revealed that Mike Johnson had called him. I think in most cases, Mike Johnson has been intentional. I think the Republicans are being intentional about trying to reach out to folks. And the question is, the minority whip said that she feels this shutdown gives them leverage. So I actually don't know that Democrats are incentivized to shut it down. I think Schumer's worried right now about a potential primary from AOC, from the left flank of his party, and he wants to show everyone else that he's doing something to try and stand up to Donald Trump. That's what ultimately this is about. And so they lose their leverage, and he potentially signals that maybe he's weak if he's willing to reach some kind of deal with the Republicans.
All right.
I would respectfully just disagree with that. When you go into a shutdown, House Democrats and Senate Democrats have to be united. We did not see this on the Democratic Party, my party, in March. And quite frankly, many Democrats were upset at Leader Schumer at that point in time. So picking a major issue, which is the Obamacare subsidies, the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office has said over 10 million Americans lose their health care coverage because of the one big ugly bill. Picking one issue, the health care, for example, is a very smart tactical strategy. And yes, of course, there should be negotiation. We all want this shutdown to be over, but Republicans, led by Donald Trump, have to come to the table.
Tripp's right. It's totally dishonest to blame the Democrats for keeping the government shut down when all the Democrats are trying to do is prevent 10 million people from getting booted off healthcare because the ACA benefits aren't going to pass through. I mean, a certain percentage of 10 million people will die because they don't have health insurance. So it's a matter of life and death. So when Republicans say, no, it's fine, trust us, let's just reopen the government and then we'll sign it, we'll take care of those 10 million people, we know they're lying. Now, the November deadline has hit at this point for people to lose their SNAP benefits. So this is real now. It's happening. A lot of Trump voters in red states are feeling this the most. Take Oklahoma, for example, where 15% of the population depends on SNAP. They've got $1 billion just sitting there for a rainy day fund to pay for these SNAP benefits if this kind of thing were to happen. And their rich ass governor still refuses to use those SNAP benefits that he has just sitting there. He'd rather let his own people go hungry than break ranks with his own party. I mean, when is this madness going to end? Like this video if you made it this far. Subscribe to the channel while you're at it. And I'll see you real soon. See ya.